This message is for Hansi Flick, and I really hope that Hansi Flick sees this message and sees what I'm about to say. Now, Hansi Flick here, I would strongly recommend that something might need to be tweaked in that Barcelona team that we're going to use to play against Real Madrid. And now let me explain everything. Now, if you watch that game of Real Madrid versus Barcelona in the first El Clasico of the season, and there's this tactic that Xabi Alonso used, and I can bet you he's going to use it again. And now, let me explain everything. You guys know that Barcelona, the main killers of this Barcelona team, is Rafinha and Lamine Yamal. Everybody goes to the killers, everybody goes to the attackers, and how the attackers are scoring the most goals. But nobody focuses on the one who is causing these attackers to do what they are doing. And that is who? Pedri. Now, Xabi Alonso saw that, okay, one of the main things I need to do in order to beat Barcelona is that I need to stop the one who is creating for these attackers. And that is who? Pedri. Pedri is the one that controls. He passes the ball. He's so good in terms of passing the ball, in terms of creation of passes and all that, creation of passes into the final third. If you look at every top club in Europe, especially those clubs that like to outscore their opponents, you will know that without the midfield, there is no attack. Without the creativity of the midfield, there is no attack. Because who is the one that is responsible for supplying the balls to the attackers? Now, if you go to PSG, you will notice why did PSG score so many goals last season. Was it only dependent on the attack? Absolutely not. Why did they score that much goals last season? Because they had the creative-minded midfielders in Joao Neves, who's also not just only good as a box-to-box, but good with the ball on his feet. And they also had Vitinha, and they also had Fabian Ruiz. Now, if you go to Bayern Munich, you will notice that they have Joshua Kimmich, who controls and dictates the tempo of the game. Yes, he's a number 6, and he also controls. Now, if you go to Barcelona, one of the things that, Xabi Alonso used is that he made sure that, okay, Pedri must be man-marked properly. Like, you must man-mark him anywhere he goes, follow him. And make sure that he does not get the ball. Like, make sure that Barcelona cannot supply the ball to Pedri, because Pedri is going to be completely marked. One thing that Pedri has is that, creation of passes. So once you can limit Pedri touching the ball, the creation of passes that Barcelona needs to have, they're not going to have it as much as long as Pedri is like totally marked. Now, how does Barcelona need to counter this? You see this match here, Eric Garcia needs to start in that defensive midfield. I know what I'm saying. Now, why do I say Eric Garcia should start and not Frenkie de Jong? Because Frenkie de Jong controls the tempo of the game. Yes, Frenkie de Jong is very good with the ball on his feet. He's press resistant. He has that ball retention, and his defensive abilities aren't that bad. But one thing about Frenkie de Jong is de Jong does not really have that passing ability that Pedri has. De Jong is not the type of guy that gives those visionary passes into the final third. Pedri is the player that is why most of the time, since De Jong can't really do that, most of the time Barcelona now has to always turn to Pedri to actually create chances. De Jong is not really a chance creator like that. He's not the type of guy that gives passes to the final third. That is Pedri's role. Now, if you look at Eric Garcia, why I say Eric Garcia should start this match is because Eric Garcia is a player who knows how to, he has that creation of passes. He has that chance creating. He knows how to give passes to the final third. And most importantly, Eric Garcia helps us a lot defensively in terms of tracking back, in terms of work rate. And that is something we need to beat Real Madrid. We need to constantly press them. We need to make sure they don't really have the ball. Because once you make sure they don't have the ball like that, once you completely shut out their midfield, their attack is going to be shut out. So that is why I'm saying that Eric Garcia will need to start, so that he will help us in terms of creation of passes, because most of the time Pedri is not really going to have the ball much because he's going to be completely man-marked, right? And then yes, you can turn to Lamine Yamal, but come on, Alonso already knows that, okay, he has Carreras to stop Yamal, and Carreras has been proven to, try to have a very good game against Lamine Yamal. And sometimes where if Real Madrid needs double marking, Vinicius will sometimes track back to help Carreras in terms of double marking Lamine Yamal. Now, another way to also counter what Real Madrid are going to use, and they are going to use the same tactic of man marking Pedri, is that try and move Pedri. There are some minutes where Pedri will start up as a central midfielder, but he needs to move to like a left wing. He needs to move to a place where he's not really going to be marked as much. So he needs to maybe move to the left. Maybe the Femi Lopez will now come to the central midfield. We need to balance it. Maybe Rafinha will come to the attacking midfield at times. Then Pedri will now move to the left, and then this thing, so that the midfielders can avoid. Sorry, so that Pedri will avoid being man marked by Real Madrid midfielders. Because if Pedri is completely man marked and there's no somebody who can supply the balls to the attack, Real Madrid is going to completely shut out our midfield, and our attack is going to be shut out, and Real Madrid have a serious chance of winning that game. So that is why I'm saying, all I'm saying right now.